Next, we will get a quick overview of intents. We have already seen intents being used in the greet friend example in the previous exercise. So what we have learned so far is that intents are a way of starting Android components. So for example, if you want to start an activity from the current activity, or if you want to start a service or invoke a broadcast receiver, you will make use of the intent mechanism to start them up. And we have seen the example of how we started the show message activity from the main activity in the greet friend application. Content providers are a different kind of component altogether. Content providers, as we saw earlier, deal with the making the data available for the components. Content providers are accessed through using a content resolver. We will not go into the content providers in this particular course. So in general, intents are an asynchronous message passing mechanism that is used to activate any of the components, like starting an activity or a service or delivering a broadcast. So a broadcast receiver will respond to a specific type of broadcast that comes in based upon what you intend to use that broadcast receiver for. As an example, we'll quickly look at the on-click method that we implemented in the greet friend application. And here we see a summary of the code that we used on how we created the intent, how we added the extra information into the intent, and then started the new activity by supplying the intent as a parameter. So in general, reviewing this mechanism, if you need to start a second activity from the first activity, we will call the start activity in the first activity after we create the intent object. Then this results in a call into the Android framework. The Android framework in turn will respond to this incoming call and then issue a call to start the new activity using that intent by calling the onCreate method of the new activity. So this is the procedure that we use for starting a new activity within Android. A similar approach is used when you start a service also. So intents in Android can be of two kinds. We have what we call as explicit intents. If we are using an explicit intent, we are explicitly identifying the component that needs to be started by giving its name. So in the example that you just saw, we identified that we want to start the show message activity by specifying showMessage.class when we constructed the intent. There is another way of using intents called as implicit intents. In an implicit intent, we are specifying to the Android framework saying that we want the Android framework to carry out this particular action, and we let the framework decide which is the best component to service that action on our behalf. So for example, if we want the Android framework to open a URL location, then we would call the Android framework as shown in the example down there. We just specify that the action that we want it to do is the action view, and then supply the URL of the web page to be opened as the second parameter to this intent object. There are many other action items that are available for an implicit intent. This is one example of such usage. After we completed this quick discussion on intents, we will move to our next exercise, where we'll be extending the greet friend example to show a list of friends. We are going to make use of the list activity class in particular and the list view that is part of the list activity class to display the list of friends. We'll also review the use of adapters, where we take a set of data and then adapt it so that it can be displayed in the list view.